Have you ever wondered what really separates a wild guess from a proven fact? Or, a hunch from a heavyweight scientific theory? Well, that's what we're doing today. We are opening up the scientist's toolkit to get into the exact language and methods that power pretty much every discovery you've ever heard of.
I mean, it's a huge question, right? Every single day, we're just bombarded with information, with claims and counterclaims. Science isn't about having all the answers, but what it does give us is this incredible framework for cutting through all that noise. It's a process, a way of separating a gut feeling from a verifiable reality. And that skill is absolutely essential today.
Okay, so first things first, we've got to speak the language. Words we use all the time like theory or fact have these super precise meanings in science that are honestly way different from how we use them in daily conversation. Nailing these down is the first step to thinking like a scientist.
Okay, let's start at the very bottom, the bedrock, a fact. A fact is just a simple, observable, verifiable piece of data. It's not really up for debate. For example, it is a fact that if I drop this pen, it falls. We can all see it, we can measure its acceleration, we can do it 1,000,000 times and it'll do the same thing. Facts are the raw materials. They're the bricks we use to build much bigger ideas.
So, once you've got a few facts, you might start to wonder why things are the way they are. And that curiosity leads you to a hypothesis. This is your testable explanation, your educated guess. Now, the key word here is testable. A hypothesis isn't just some random idea. It's a proposal that you can actually design an experiment around to either support or prove wrong. The outcome is still a question mark. And this brings us to the big one, a theory. Now, this is where the everyday meaning and the scientific meaning just go their separate ways. We say, oh, I have a theory, when we really mean, I have a hunch. In science, a theory is, well, it's basically the exact opposite of that. A scientific theory is a heavyweight champion. It's this comprehensive, super robust explanation of how some part of nature works, and it's supported by a massive body of evidence. We're talking tested hypotheses, verified facts, the whole shebang. It's the most reliable, rigorous, and powerful explanation we have. This pyramid here on the slide just lays out the whole hierarchy perfectly. You see, it all starts with simple observations. Those are our facts. From there, we build a testable hypothesis. Now, if that hypothesis survives round after round of really tough testing, it can contribute to a powerful theory that explains the how or the why something happens. But wait, what's that at the top? A law? That's a little different, and it's a common point of confusion. A scientific law, like the law of gravity, describes what will happen. It tells you the pen will fall every time. A theory, like the theory of relativity, is our best shot at explaining why it falls. So to put it simply, the law describes the what, and the theory explains the why.
So let's do a quick check. That statement, the Big Bang explains the development of the universe. What do you think? A fact, a hypothesis, or a theory? Well, think about it. It's a massive, overarching explanation that accounts for a huge range of things we can observe. Facts like the expansion of the universe and cosmic background radiation. It has been tested and refined for decades. So yeah, that makes it a theory, and a pretty darn successful one at that.
All right, so we've got the language down. Now let's look at the actual tools. How do scientists test a hypothesis to see if it's got any weight? It all comes down to designing a fair test, and that requires a few key ingredients.
These 6 concepts you're looking at right here are the absolute cornerstones of experimental design. Let's break down the first 2 because they're really the stars of any fair test.
Okay, the stars of the show, the independent and dependent variables. The independent variable, or the IV, is the one thing you, the scientist, change on purpose. Think of it as the cause. The dependent variable, or DV, is what you measure. It's the effect. It's what you expect to see change because of what you did to the IV. If you're cooking, the IV is how much chili powder you add. The DV is how spicy the final dish tastes.
And this image right here just illustrates it perfectly. The amount of water is our independent variable. It's the one thing we're deliberately changing between these pots. The dependent variable is the result we're going to measure, the size of the plant, the number of leaves, its overall health. You change one thing, the IV, to see its effect on another, the DV. Simple as that. But here's the catch. To know if the water really caused that change, everything else has to be exactly the same. That's where constants come in. These are all the factors you keep identical across all your groups. And you also need a control group. This is your baseline, your standard for comparison. It's the group that doesn't get the special treatment. Back to our chili analogy, the constants are the other ingredients, like tomatoes and beans that you don't mess with, and the control group is your original classic recipe without any of that extra chili powder.
All right, enough talk, let's make this real. We're going to walk through a super simple plant experiment and see if we can spot all the parts of our toolkit in action. So, look at this setup. The question is simple. Does water affect how many bean seeds sprout? We've got 2 identical pots with 10 seeds each. One pot gets water, that's our experimental group. The other one gets 0 water, that's our control group. It's clean, it's simple, and it's ready to go.
This table just breaks it all down. The independent variable is the amount of water. It's the only thing we're deliberately changing. The dependent variable is plant growth, which in this case we're measuring by how many seeds sprout. And just look at that long list of constants. The type of soil, the amount of soil, the kind of planter, the amount of light, all of it has to stay the same for this to be a fair test.
Now, this is such a great question because it shows you just how powerful and flexible this whole toolkit is. So you've tested water, but now your curiosity is piqued about fertilizer. Do you have to throw everything out and start from scratch? Nope, not at all. You just rearrange your toolkit.
And check this out. In our new experiment, fertilizer becomes the independent variable. See, we're testing different amounts of it. But what happened to our old IV, the amount of water? Look, it's now a constant. Every single plant gets the exact same amount of water so that we can isolate the effect of the fertilizer. It's the same method, we're just asking a brand new question.
So we've decoded the language of certainty, and we've put together the tools for a fair test. But what does all of this actually mean for you in your life? At its very heart, science is just driven by curiosity. It's about asking questions. This toolkit that we've just gone through, it's simply the most reliable system humanity has ever developed for answering them.
And here's the most important takeaway. This framework is not just for scientists in lab coats. The next time you see a headline about a new diet trend or an ad for some miracle product, you can use this toolkit. Ask yourself, okay, what's the independent variable they tested? Was there even a control group for comparison? What were they really measuring? It gives you this incredible mental filter to evaluate that flood of information that comes at you every single day. So that's it. You now have the fundamental toolkit that has powered centuries of discovery. The question is no longer how to find an answer. It's simply, what question will you ask first?
For more content like this, subscribe to Paperful.